When you're doing a red team engagement compared to a penetration test, do you feel more like a threat actor at that point?
Oh, absolutely. That is the best cure to imposter syndrome I think I've ever had. Was if this were a real fish and this were a real everything, like if I was actually a bad guy, like I'd be like a millionaire right now. And the company was like thrilled with us too. Like they loved it, and I was like, okay, I did some good.
How much malware development does a red teamer have to know? Can you get by not knowing how to develop malware?
I would say you can get by, but you're gonna have a really uphill battle with it.
Hi, I'm Kyser Clark, and welcome to The Hacker's Cache, the show that decrypts the secrets of offensive security one byte at a time. Every week I invite you into the world of ethical hacking by interviewing leading offensive security practitioners. If you are a penetration tester, bug bounty hunter, red teamer, or blue teamer who wants to better understand the modern hacker mindset, whether you are new or experienced, this show is for you.
Hello, welcome to the Hacker's Cache. My name is Kyser Clark, the host of the show. I have 6 years experience in the field. I currently work full-time as a penetration tester. I have 12 certifications, a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, and I'm currently working on a master's degree in cybersecurity. Today I have Nathan Rice, who started out as a SOC analyst and did that for almost 2 years, then migrated to full-time penetration tester and did that for just over a year. And in the current position, he is a senior penetration tester and he's been in that position for almost 2 years. For education, he has a bachelor's degree in information systems and technology. And for certifications, Nathan has the 0-point security red team operator, so that's the CRTO, the 0-point security red team lead, which is the CRTL, the offsec exploit developer, that's the OSED, offsec experienced penetration tester, that's the OSEP, offsec certified professional, that's the OSCP, offsec wireless professional, OSWP, and the INE security junior penetration tester, that is the EJPT. So Nathan, go ahead and walk through your background, unpack some of that experience, and introduce yourself to the audience.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I'm Nate Rice. Got my bachelor's degree back in 2018, I believe, late 2018, in information system security. Then I started out as a SOC analyst from there as my first job. It was mostly just for tuning EDR, going through phishing emails, the whole 9 yards there. Pretty standard SOC stuff from there. While I was in college, actually, the head for the cybersecurity program there and I bonded. I had some stuff going on in my personal life, and he just kind of happened to be he helped like the youth groups and did a lot of. It was a good work for the community, so he helped kind of get me through some stuff. So that led me into cybersecurity from there. Because at first I just wanted to be IT, didn't really have a whole lot of pathing from there. So he introduced me into the world of offensive security, where he showed me offensive security is like certified professional and a few of the other certs for hacking, so to speak. So I got super involved in those while I was a security analyst, got through a few of them, and pivoted into penetration testing from there. From there on, I started focusing mostly in malware development, just because that's really what my team needed at the time, as we were getting gobbled up by EDR a good chunk of the time. I took the initiative to start learning that in malware development. From there on, I just kind of kept going with it, and I also began focusing Android mobile apps from there. It's kind of a little side mission when learning things from there. Currently, I'm a senior penetration tester at Verizon with the Threat Research Advisory Center there, where I do a combination of penetration testing and red team operations.
So what does red team operations look like compared to penetration testing?
So penetration testing is kind of kicking the door down, and we're just finding as many bugs as possible. We don't care about our noise, how loud we are, if we're triggering like security alerts from like Defender or like EDR. Whereas red team operations, we have to take our time, be slow. We're really doing our best to emulate a real-world threat adversary. And from there, we actually have to, if we can get caught, the blue team can kick us out of the network. They're actively hunting for us. A lot of the time, security analysts and blue teams don't even know we're doing a red team. To them, we're just real adversaries. So there's an element of stealth and moving with intent that goes on with a red team operation that you just don't get with a penetration test. Usually, we're moving or it's an objective, so that's compromising PII, ransomwaring a domain, getting access to like secret files or like sensitive information. It kind of varies day to day or op to op of what we're going for. So we move a lot more intently with the red team.
And that's a very important clarification to make. A lot of people don't understand the penetration testing and red teaming and what the difference is between the two. So that's why I wanted you to talk about that for people that didn't know. When it comes to like penetration testing and red team operations, do you think one has to be a pen tester before they can become a red team operator, or do you think someone can go like straight to red team operations if that's where they wanted to go?
You should definitely start with penetration testing before you go into red team operations. If we're ignoring all the physical penetration testing and just sticking strictly to the network based, red teaming is just penetration testing with moving more intently. The skills translate very well. It's just a lot more patience and just being very careful and just knowing what we call saturation level whenever we're working. So, oh, this command might trigger an EDR alert or some kind of alert somewhere on like a SIM, and just knowing how to work through those, past those. Whereas penetration testing, you're not concerned with that. You can just run the command. It's just moving it. You're running the same commands and doing the same steps, just more in a stealthily manner, just knowing what you're doing to kind of sidestep things. So yeah, penetration testing is a good start. Red teaming is just the same thing, but it's moving more, like I said, more intently, so to speak.
Right. And what would you say to people who are currently a penetration tester and they're looking to become like a red team operator? How does one acquire the skills to go from pen tester to red teamer?
Certifications are a big step there. As if you're already a penetration tester and you're wanting to red team, you're already 80% of the way there. You probably know what to do in a penetration test. Say your objective in the red team is to get domain admin. You probably already know how to get domain admin if you're a penetration tester and you've looked at Active Directory. It's just kind of knowing what to like, how to operate one within a command and control server, because usually we're more focused in command and control that way and persistence. And it's just knowing how to do things where like things like Defender for Identity or like EDR wouldn't pick up on. There's courses for it as well. Like I did, I'm sure this will come up later, but I did the 0 point securities red team ops and the red team ops 2 for the lead. And it does a good job about showing you the differences, so to speak, versus like doing like the penetration testing with Kali course, for example, where you're just moving more intently and knowing, oh, this creates this creates an event log for Defender here if I run it this way, but if I go another route, something might not create that alert, so a blue team might not be as clued in to activity.
So speaking of certs, so you have like a bunch of them, and you have some of like the higher level ones. So I was looking at yours, and like my highest certification is OSCP, and that's like in the middle of your stack. So you have like tons above that. And I'm just curious, did you pass all your certs on your first try? How many times have you failed certs, and what was the hardest challenge to overcome?
Yeah, absolutely not the first time. No, that's just the nature of the beast with OffSec stuff. They're a beast to tackle. I think my OSCP took me 4 or 5 times, if I'm remembering right, and this was all during the pandemic at the time. I believe I passed it in 2019, the OSCP. I passed the OSWP. I meant to test at 3 p.m. and I tested 3 a.m. because I misclicked the portal. So I was just dead tired taking it. That was not a fun experience. Fun course, not a fun experience. Both the Red Team Ops courses were pretty straightforward. I passed them first try. They were excellent experiences. Can't recommend them enough. They're fantastic. OSEP took me 2 times as well. Thankfully not 5 times like the OSCP. I got really stuck early on. Some of the more initial access techniques with OSEP I didn't understand very well the first time I went through it. So I got stuck pretty early, and then I had some just family stuff going on, so my head wasn't in it the first attempt. Second attempt, OSEP, you need 10 flags effectively to pass, or a special secret.txt one, unless they've updated it since I've taken it. But I believe I got the first 9 flags in about 8 hours on my second attempt. Got stuck on the last flag, could not figure it out for the life of me. Went to bed, wrote the entire report minus that flag. As I was eating dinner the next night, it's a 48-hour practical exam, it hits me like, oh, wait, maybe it's this, and it was. So then it was just like, add 3 screenshots to my report, send it into OffSec, I was done for the day, and I was 2 days on that. So OSED was absolutely the hardest one of the ones I have so far. That's Offensive Security's Exploit Developer, which is the old OSCP buffer overflows, but just on steroids. They start throwing data execution prevention, which prevents you from doing, jumping to the stack and executing. ASLR, for example, which randomizes addresses in memory, and it's just getting around a ton of 32-bit Windows mitigation techniques to understand buffer overflows and in-memory attacks for 32-bit apps. That course was insane. Good knowledge, good course, really hard exam. Without getting too specific with it, it's a 48-hour practical exam. It took me, I believe, the entirety of a day to get through the first, I would say the first good chunk of it. I tried to take some melatonin to sleep later that night, and it just made me loopy. Like, I was so out of it because I was so stressed out just thinking about the course. I think I slept maybe 3 hours the entire time. Got back up, got a quick shower, got back at it for the next little bit of it. Accidentally deleted like half my work about 3/4 of the way through for the second part of it. Had to start from scratch again. Lost power because of a storm for about 3 hours. I thought for sure the proctors would kick me out. Power comes back on after about 30 minutes of it being out, like 3 hours through the second half of doing it. Figure it out for the most part. My part of my VM corrupts. Luckily, I've been taking cloud backups, but I'm out about 10 minutes worth of work. I do it again. At this point, it's like 4 in the morning from day 2. I've not slept a dime. I'm just jerking around, just horribly, like barely. I'm like dizzy. Get everything I need. Write the report at like 4. I start the report at 4 in the morning. My test terminates in 5 hours. So I hurry up, get that done. I think I submitted, like my test ended like 9:30. I think I submitted my report at like 9:20. And then I couldn't sleep because all the nerves. I'm like, oh, what if I forgot something? What if I forgot a screenshot? What if I didn't do something right? And I think I got the pass email 2 hours later. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. I tried harder on the OffSec ethos on that one. That was the most painful certification experience I've ever had. I told myself I told myself it just wasn't meant to be if I failed that one, because I was not doing that a second time. Well,
Wow.
that took a year off my life. Yeah.
What an incredible story. That's so many challenges. Like that's like, all the extra, like it's hard enough without all the problems, and then you had all the problems, and then you really did try hard. That is incredible. Yeah, OffSec certs are definitely no joke, and that's why I asked you that question, because there's a lot of people in our field that pursue the OffSec certs, and you don't pass them all on your first try, and I think it's important for people to understand. So you talking about the OSEP? I went through that course twice. And I didn't even go to the challenge labs because I didn't feel confident in my ability to start that. So, and then there was a need for me to learn web hacking, so I went to the OSWA, that's the OffSec Web Assessor. I failed that one twice. The first time, I actually started that course, or the exam, and I didn't really feel like 100% confident, but I was like, you know what, I got OffSec Unlimited, which really helps because I got unlimited retries. So I was like, if I fail, it's whatever, because I heard someone in the Discord was like, the best preparation for the exam is the exam itself, because unfortunately that course only has 8 challenge machines, and that's what made it hard in my opinion compared to like an OSCP, where there's like, right now there's like 50 something challenge boxes, and I passed my OSCP on the first try because there was 54 challenge boxes, but then OSWA there's only 8 practices, and then I failed twice. But yeah, that's why I asked that question, because there is a lot. They are extremely difficult, and I want to get more OffSec certs under my belt, and I fully expect to fail. And there's no shame in failing OffSec certs.
Yeah, absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's expected. Everyone thinks they're hard. I mean, I know seasoned professionals who think they're hard. I mean, I question if I can even pass the OSCP again if I take it in. I've been doing this for years. So yeah, absolutely zero shame in failing the OffSec stuff. Just as long as you pick yourself up and keep going, that's all there is to it.
That's great advice, and that's why I asked that question, because that's so someone who's aspiring to I got the OSCP on my first try, but I don't expect to get the other ones on the first try. Like I said, I've already failed OSWA twice now. So let's go ahead and let's do a rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Yep, ready
For
whenever
the
you are.
rapid fire questions. All right, for new listeners / viewers, Nathan will have 30 seconds to answer 5 questions. If he answers 5 questions in 30 seconds, he will get a bonus 6th question that's unrelated to cybersecurity. The time will start after I finish asking the first question. Here we go.
Okay.
What is your favorite place to get cybersecurity news?
InfoSec Institute or just Twitter.
Best hacker alive today?
Tiberius is up there, but Morton is Schneck as well.
Ethical hacking, art or science?
Science.
Most overrated cybersecurity threat?
Shoot, that's a good one. AI.
Most memorable hacking experience?
The first time I ever got RCE was on a chili cook-off form.
I think that was about 32 seconds. That was just past the 30-second mark. That was close. I think if you would have explained on that last one, I think you would have got it. But good responses though. Man, I think my favorite response you gave me was most overrated cybersecurity threat being AI. I want you to talk about that. Why do you think it's overrated?
I think a lot of people really overanalyze what AI is capable of at the moment. Right now, AI has kind of been how I explained it to people who aren't in the field at all. Is it's kind of like we were able to program an idiot to respond to things, And for some reason, every company so far has just been like, let's put that in everything, even when sometimes it doesn't belong. And I don't think there's necessarily severe issues with security and AI right now, because I know AI security is becoming a big thing and topic right now. And I think it's just really just making sure it's just prompt security and just not being able to massage things. It's more there's a fine line between quality assurance and security, and I think AI is a little too new to really have a strong distinction yet. And I don't think AI is quite there where everyone thinks it is yet. Like the prompts and responses for a lot of the models are good, but I don't think it's just going to print its own private key, or we're not getting into like War Games or Terminator with it anytime soon, like some people think.
Yeah, I don't think, like you said, like War Games and Terminator, I don't think that's going to happen soon. However, I don't know if you heard about it, but like Samsung developers, they pasted some source code in ChatGPT, and then like the whole world knew about it. Do you not think that's like a high cybersecurity risk, or?
I mean, it is, but it's not like how anything different than like uploading stuff to like GitHub at the end of the day. It's more so just knowing data privacy for your developers, and then not upload things that knowingly share data. I mean, if I put code in a GitHub repo and leave it public on accident because I didn't read, like, is it AI's fault, or is it the developer's fault for leaking it?
That's a good point. Yeah. So you're saying that we should, it's not really a security risk. It's more of like an end user responsibility to not
Yeah,
put your personal information and secure information in
yeah,
the bot.
it's not reading a terms of service at the end of the day at that point.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because at the end of the day, we are responsible because we don't have the AI. ChatGPT sign a non-disclosure agreement. Like if we could do that somehow,
Right.
then that would be interesting. But yeah, definitely, it is important to know like anything you put in a chat bot, like just assume the world's going to know that about you. So don't put anything
Yep.
too personal in there, or like don't
Yep.
put like proprietary data on there.
Right. They
And
tell you in the terms of service and EULA what they're going to do. You just got to read it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read any of that stuff. I just hear the security vulnerabilities like on the news, like,
Yep.
oh, Samsung developers put source code in ChatGPT. Now we have the source code. I'm like, whoa,
I
sounds
didn't.
like
I didn't read it either. I had ChatGPT summarize it for me.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's great. I'm gonna get back on the topic of red teaming and pen testing because you do both, and it's really nice to know like the differences between the two, and especially as me as a pen tester who doesn't do red teaming, my goal is to eventually do some more red team operations because I think it's more fun. Would you agree with that? Do you think red teaming is more fun, or do you?
It, it's more stressful, but it's more rewarding at the same time. It's just to get domain admin on a pen test, I have got a little numb to anymore. But getting domain admin on a red team is something special. To know you went the extra mile, you were undetected, you beat EDR, you beat all the SIM traffic, none of the analysts saw you. It's so much more rewarding, and the tradecraft for it's just evolving every single day. A lot of the pen testing hasn't. I don't want to say it hasn't come very far, because it absolutely has, but it's a lot of the same old of, okay, they left LLMNR on, I relayed, I got on, there's DA running as a service, just some stuff like that. It's a lot of those look the same, but like red teams are pretty different every single time. It's like, oh, okay, they're running, best EDR on the market. Okay, I just wrote this loader 2 weeks ago. Let's see what happens. Okay, cool. Beacon checked in. We're in. Holy crap, that never happens. Or, oh, they gobbled us up the first time. Oh, and the SOC locked our account like within 30 seconds. Oh, okay, it's going to be one of these tests. It's so rewarding when we actually do get through.
Yeah, it does sound more rewarding. So when you're doing a red team engagement compared to a penetration test, do you feel more like a threat actor at that point?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's. If you ever like getting my first red team win, I'd say with my team we get more wins than losses at this point. I wouldn't have exact metrics, but we win pretty often. But it's like that is the best cure to imposter syndrome I think I've ever had. Was okay if this were a real fish and this were a real everything. Like, okay, if I was actually a bad guy, like I'd be like a millionaire right now. If we were actually moving with intent, and that was the best cure. Honestly, not to repeat myself, best cure for imposter syndrome I ever have. Like okay, cool, we actually did it. All the training and stuff paid off. Wow, I actually like the company was like thrilled with us too. Like they loved it, and I was like, okay, I did some good. I got to I made it. This is great.
That's interesting. You bring up how the company reacted to your success. How did the blue team react to your success?
We always make sure to include some like good things they did at the same time. So there's a few times that they definitely like probably cued into it because we had our persistence was really good on a few of the tests. So they got a couple of us, but they didn't smack them all the way. But we walked them through what we did. We showed them the techniques of the EDR. We have another team that kind of helped tune the EDRs to get certain alerts and make sure they're actually getting everything. And we found out at the end of this, we ransomwared them, and like their ransomware prevention was so just messed up that if this would happen for real, they would have been down for like days. So we decrypted all the test stuff, and that could have really saved them someday in the future, not having all that set up right. And to find that was just huge value for them. And then that was like a real cemented. It's like, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. Just getting all the hearing the praise from the team, the client, and the rest of the team for all of that. Like you're there to break stuff. That's kind of what you're supposed to do. So like don't be shy when you're talking to the client, because like you're there to find things. If you just tell them, nope, you're good, that can be valuable at times when they truly are good. But you're also, don't be afraid to tell them, oh yeah, we're domain admin, because that's literally what you're there for.
So you have multiple clients. Is that how you're kind of set up in your organization right now?
Pretty much, yeah. We have a new one probably every 2 weeks, month, 2 months. The operations kind of vary in length, but yeah, they go kind of all over the place. But it's never been, very rarely is it the same client twice or more than 2 or 3 times.
Okay, that's actually one of the things I was going to ask was like if you had a repeat client and you have a successful red team engagement, and like you said, like a huge one where you get domain admin, you went through the SIEM, you went through all their incident response, all that stuff, and you have to tell them exactly what you did so they get better. Does that going in for the next round, like if you have a repeat client, I'm assuming it's a lot harder because you basically just told them all your techniques, right?
Not always. Sometimes we find another route. Sometimes, they didn't fix it, but more times than not they did. And it's always really nice to see when they did. It's always a test of skill from our team as well. Whenever we go in, we run them over. They are a lot better the second time around, thankfully to our recommendations. And then it's like, okay, it's game on now. Okay, now we're back to square one. Not square one, but okay, it's okay, game on. Let's see where it goes. It's just nice to see whenever seeing clients improve. Plus, it's just, a nice test of skill for us at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I'd really that's one of my goals is to get into more red team engagement stuff. Like you said, it's nice to see the clients fix the stuff, because as a pen tester, I would get on a test and I would see the last year report and the same findings are still there. You're like, why did you not fix any of these stuff? And then I have to put the same findings on the next year report, and that's frustrating as a pen tester. You're like yeah, I have findings here, but at the same time, it's like you should be fixing these.
Yeah, I always just finding new stuff too, because whenever I find the repeat stuff, I feel like I'm just copying someone else's homework.
Right.
The same
Yep.
things, like, oh, someone else found this. I'm just repeating it. I'm just going through.
Yeah,
It just drives me nuts. It's just nice to find new stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good when you're just copy and pasting from the last report and then you're putting it in this report. It makes you feel like you didn't do anything.
Yeah, I just feel like I wasted I just feel like I wasted everyone's time at that point.
Yep. So blue teamers, if you're listening, if you get a report, pen test report, red team report, fix your stuff.
Blue teamers, you can turn off SMB signing. It is possible. I promise. It's possible. Not easy, but possible.
So you talked about malware development. So how much malware development does a red teamer have to know? Can you get by not knowing how to develop malware?
I would say you can get by, but you're going to have a really uphill battle with it. Occasionally a new loader will come up on GitHub, but usually within a couple days, EDRs are starting to signature it. So having your own tooling off the shelf that you can use just to pull out of your back pocket to get command and control is critical in today's red team world. I started off getting all my malware development skills with the OSEP from offsec, and I just fell in love with the malware sections of that course. It was just so fun trying to get around Windows Defender and just get certain techniques to load and just getting that interpreter checked in. Or whatever it says, this. I get it in Cobalt Strike mixed up with a checked in, but they're so interchangeable anymore to me. But just to get that to see it check in, Defender's on, everything's on, it was just addicting to me. So I just got super into it and just learning new techniques. And once you have that base, you kind of know where to go from there. A lot of the EDR evading payloads and the ones that taught in OSEP are not that different. There's just a few little tweaks to it. Just for an example, right? So like OSEP teaches a little bit about it, and it's using like pretty traditional like Windows API calls. Where there's like just to get around EDR, it's just if you just change to like indirect sys calls and just use the same calls, just skip a few steps and just do everything straight from NTD DLL.DLL and do sys calls from there, and just not calling it directly from kernel where it's like signatured in an EDR, for example. Then you're through. Like the principle is the same. It's just how you actually go about it's just mildly different. And it's a good test of just being able to think on your feet as well when you're writing malware. Because you're just trying to do something. You're doing the same action. You're just having to do it differently and get creative with it. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That's just the cat and mouse game of malware development, and just between the blue and red team as is. And that's okay if they catch it. I mean, nothing's bulletproof, and the EDRs are getting better every day, and they should. That they're keeping us safe at the end of the day. Yeah, I just recently got into a Maldev Academy subscription. I saw it on Twitter. It's a few big name guys who run that. That's been amazing for malware development. So yeah, for any of the listeners, like Maldev Academy subscriptions are fantastic. I would absolutely recommend them if you're looking to go that route with it or start experimenting around with it. And even for the blue team, just to be able to write some malware and just look at it with your EDR and just kind of start signaturing techniques. That's a godsend to your organization. Overall, just to have more eyes on for the processes and what they're doing.
So the main takeaway I got from that was because, like I said, I was going through the OSEP course, and I was, like you say, you would learn how to bypass Windows Defender and some of the off-the-shelf antivirus products out there, and you'll bypass them, and that is addicting. You're like, oh my gosh, like this bypassed Windows Defender, and this bypassed like. The AV that I was running on my host machine, I was like, this beat my AV. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is dangerous. Yep. And I would guess I was under the impression that like that course was, it's not going to be EDR, like the payloads that they like the techniques they teach you. But you're saying those techniques, if you take those and tweak them, then you can bypass some of the EDR, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of the malware is basically open a chunk of memory, stick some instructions in it, and execute it. And that's kind of an oversimplification, but that's what you're doing at the end of the day. You just got to get creative on how you open the chunk of memory, how you copy instructions to it, and how you execute them. So just doing stuff like sys calls or trying to obstruct the memory page, or whether it's a local process or a remote process, you can just play with different techniques of that, and it's just going to run eventually. And it was such an eye-opening experience for me when I was a SOC analyst going through OSEP. At the time, because it was like, oh, our EDR will catch it. Our EDR catches everything. Oh, our EDR does not catch everything. Oh no. Oh, we got to tune this. Oh no. That was such like an eye-opening. I think that was really like when I went from like junior to senior. Like it was that moment of realization of like, oh, this is not bulletproof. And just having that real like eye-opening experience of like, oh, we have to tune this. Oh, we got to really proactively keep an eye on this.
I want you to talk about uploading your malware to like VirusTotal and some of those.
Never do that. Yeah, never do that. You're tattling on yourself. Never do that. They're going to be on there eventually. Like if you're running a payload against EDR, it's just going to cloud upload. That's just name of the game with it. I mean, it happens, but yeah, don't tattle on yourself at that point. The original course I think taught using like anti-scan, but that's behind a paywall now, which is a shame because I used to use anti-scan a lot. But yeah, it's nowadays you're just better off just testing live. Just have a box that just doesn't have internet access to. Detonate your payload and just have it go just straight to you. Don't have any redirectors or don't jump through things. Just straight just team server or like interpreter server and box on the same network. Just have it go straight to you. Make sure cloud uploads disabled. Make sure it doesn't have internet access so it can't telemetry doesn't get through to the actual like EDR provider. And then that's effectively how we're testing from there. And just update it every now and again. The signatures period. Just give it like internet access or just revert. Give it internet access. Do it from a snapshot. Give it internet access. Update the EDR, turn the internet back off. The cloud solutions or like the website scanning solutions are just not worth running at this point.
When it comes to malware development, programming and coding is a skill that you have to have. What languages or should someone really understand to create malware that's going to bypass like EDR and stuff?
I'm a bit biased just because I do a lot of NIM work, but I think NIMs have been a great malware language so far. It writes like Python, compiles like C, and it compiles like ugly. It's really hard to really get a good analysis on NIM payloads. Assembly is pretty handy to know as well because a lot of the malware techniques used, especially like when you start getting really messy with like jump calls and doing things like Heaven's Gate, for example, you need some assembly knowledge to know what's going on with that. Plus, it just good to be able to just look at some of the assembly anyway and be like, oh, this is what this is doing anyway. I started out with C# and Python with my programming. Just they're both pretty simple. They have a pretty good learning curve from there, and then moving on to some more niche ones like NIM, Go, and some assembly are just generally useful. Those are what I generally recommend. Because like the goal of malware is you want it to be not picked up by signature checks, a defender just signaturing you right out the gate. It needs to be portable, so if the client's not running Java on their computer, you wouldn't want to write Java malware and drop it because it's not going to run. Same with Python. And it has to be somewhat easy to write. Like you don't want to sit there and struggle with syntax while writing the malware instead of actually like detonating it. So you need portability, ease of writing, and somewhat level of obfuscation when it's dropped. So if they compile kind of ugly, then that's generally pretty desirable as well. So like NIM and Go are great examples of those too.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. I never even really thought about NIM, so that's good to know. Someone like me who wants to eventually get the OSED and the OSEP, do you think there's a order of importance if you want to get both of those, like you think one should come before the other, or does it not matter?
If your goal is red teaming and penetration testing, EP is infinitely more useful. ED is a great course on its own, but I don't use the knowledge in that very often in my day-to-day. I'm just really wanting for I want the OSCE3. It's just kind of a rite of passage, I think. I wasn't really in the space when the OSCE was around, so I just feel like it's got a bit of a rite of passage to get that. And I had a little bit of a malware analysis background anyway, just through some like internships and such. So like a lot of the skills in OSED were familiar. It was just putting the exploit twist on it.
You said you're not using your offsite exploit developer skills day to day too much. Explain what that course is and like what you actually learn and like who it would be applicable to.
Yeah, so the offensivesecurity's exploit developer is like 32-bit Windows application exploitation. So you're taking a compiled 32-bit app and you're just kind of getting a buffer overflow on it. You're running analysis on it, and you're also going to be bypassing a lot of Windows mitigations built into like your memory stacks. So like if you do the OSCP, at least when you used to, there was a buffer overflow section where it would walk you through essentially attacking its application's memory and being able to get remote code execution on it. It's just that times 100, because now you have to get around all of the common Windows mitigations for that, as well as being able to identify them as well without any kind of source code whatsoever. So that app's focused more on like exploit research, exploit development. It's kind of a stepping stone between nothing and their offsec exploitation expert course, where you're just looking at like compiled applications, digging in the weeds of its assembly instructions and finding vulnerabilities. As a penetration tester and like a red team operator, very seldom do I hunt for like 0 days unless it's an application specific test. If I'm on an internal network and it's 1,000 hosts on like an Active Directory network, I don't have time to sit there and reverse engineer an app. I gotta find as much as possible, and that's just a lot of the time that's just off the shelf exploits and vulnerabilities, and just it can't be helped for the sake of time. So not that there isn't a place for that course, because it absolutely was a great course, and exploit research is absolutely a growing field. As a penetration tester in red team, we don't use that skill day to day very much.
Okay, that's really good to know, and that's something I didn't know. So thanks for answering that. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so I want to ask you the final question. Do you have any additional cybersecurity hot takes or hidden wisdom you'd like to share?
I think the best thing I can give is just some generic advice for someone who's wanting to aspire to be red team. Don't be afraid to jump in. The team, it's red team, not red person. Don't be afraid to actually do things and ask your team to, hey, what if we do this exploit here? Because your insight might be pretty valuable. One of the best penetrations testers I know just started red teaming with us. He shifted from just doing like senior penetration tester work to like beginning red team, and like his knowledge wasn't like impeccable. It's just knowing how to spin it to be move intently and just how to get a very stealth manner with it. So don't be afraid to ask questions and don't get analysis paralysis. Don't be afraid to get caught, because we're just gonna get caught sometimes. It's just the nature of the beast. It's cat and mouse. You can't win every single time with that. So just don't get analysis paralysis. Don't run, and don't not be careful with the assumption of, well, if I get caught, it doesn't matter, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying don't be afraid to try things, because sometimes it might just stick.
Yeah, like you said, moving with intent, that is definitely a skill that in itself, like you can have a bunch of knowledge, but if you don't know how to apply it, then it doesn't really matter. So moving with intent, that's That's a good way of putting it. All right, Nathan. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for doing this session with me. I learned a lot here, and I'm sure the audience did as well. Where can the audience find you if they want to get a hold of you, if they want to connect with you?
I would say the best places to get a hold of me are the infosec prep Discord servers. That's discord.gg/infosec prep. Just ask for Possum. I'll be around.
Perfect. Audience, best place to get a hold of me is LinkedIn and my website, kyserclark.com. If you enjoyed the episode, check out another episode and drop a review if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your attention. This is Kyser, signing off.